Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Comic Shop Talk Live, brought to you by Black Hat Comics in Rock and Milpitas, your one-stop shop for all things superhero. Shop online at black-cat-comics.com. We're keeping you connected to the comic book community. I'm Mark Causey, your host. As you can see, I'm flying solo today. My lovely co-pilot is otherwise occupied, but I'm going to keep you entertained for the next half an hour or so, talking about new comics, maybe a couple of old comics, everything that goes on here in your favorite feline-themed friendly neighborhood comic book store. It's an interactive program. We want to hear from you. We want to know what you're reading, what you're looking forward to reading, what's at the top of your stack. Always interested in what the fans out there are reading. You don't just want to hear about all of my favorite comics. I always like to start the show with a little comic shop news. Comic shop news. Not a whole lot of news in the world of comics this week. Apparently, Marvel's going to make a couple announcements next week. DC Fandom will be rolling out all kinds of things, but this week is just sort of a, hey, check out your comics kind of week. Would mention that last night we did another episode of Causey's Classics, the last Friday night of every month. Do a little show spotlighting the classic books of eras gone by. You can find that video on the Facebook and on the old YouTube there. Talked about all-time great creators last night. It was a whole lot of fun. Like I say, check out the video, take a look at some of the books that we talked about. Love talking about the vintage classics and the all-time great creators of comics, old and new. So that was fun. Look forward to doing that again. And then, of course, today we come back to the future and talk about some current comics. Got a lot of good books to talk about this week. Got some fun things, some first issues, some classic issues, some indie stuff. Almost don't know where to begin, but let's go ahead and get cracking. I guess the best place to start is Action and Detective. I love any week when Action and Detective comes out in the same week. A couple of really tight when you have issue 1031, 1036. They've been around a little while and have seen the ups and downs and all that sort of thing, but for being the core titles of the DC universe, and of course a couple of the core titles of comics, they're really as good now as they've maybe ever been, and as good as they've been in a long time. Let's start with Action, because that comes first. You know, I'm a big Superman fan. It's been a couple issues since the Bendis run ended, and now it's almost a bit of a segue in between Future State Superman. They're about to launch Superman, Son of Kal-El, where Jonathan is going to be the featured character, and then Original Superman will stay the featured title in Action. And that's fun. Great stories, great art. I always say, if you're one of those folks who was reading the Bendis run, stay with it. When your favorite writer and artist leave a book, hang out for a couple issues. Give the next team a chance. And take a look at some of that art. That's some pretty awesome stuff. Good time to be a super fan. And Detective, of course, is very much the same thing. I know everybody's reading Batman. Every week we talk a little bit about Batman. I'm going to talk quite a bit about Batman on this show, as a matter of fact, because a couple of my favorite titles right now are Bat books. And as good as they are, and I'll get to those in a minute, Detective's just as good as they are. Detective is just as good as the main Bat book, just as good as all those other things that say Batman on it. There's a cool example of the art. Nice brooding Batman shots. Always like brooding Batman shots. Traditionally speaking, Batman is the superhero book and Detective is the crime book. And while that's not so much the case these days, it's still a little bit true that Detective is more about Gotham City and what goes on in Gotham. And Batman is more, what goes on with Batman. This one has Huntress, of course. So if for some reason you're not following either of these, each and every DC fan should have Action, Detective, and Wonder Woman on their list. And like I say, these two will pay it off. We'll explain what I'm always talking about. Now, one of the two Bat books that are my favorites that I mentioned a minute ago is this one, Batman Superman. This is number 18. I could talk about this book for the whole rest of the show. Batman Superman 16 was the first issue of the newest arc and the new creative team, Gene Yang and Ivan Rice. Yvonne Reyes, I don't know how to say his name. If you're watching, Ivan, tune in. Chime in with how to pronounce your name exactly. But he's been one of my favorite artists for the longest time. It's a little deep in the run, so I'm a little hesitant to show you anything because just about anything is a little spoilerific. But wow. Ivan Rice is, if you watched my show last night, I talked about guys like Bernie Wrightson, like George Perez. And honestly, I think Ivan Rice is one of the newer, more modern artists that totally belongs in that category because that intense pencil work and the individualization of all the characters. I love when characters have individual faces, individual body types, etc., etc. So the art is amazing. You already know that. Gene Yang is a little like Ivan, one of the really great newer writers in the big scheme of things. I know he's been around a little while, but when you're 100 years old and you've been reading comics for 50 years, then anybody still working is one of the new people, right? So Batman Superman started back in number 16. And this book is everything that it should be. It's tons of fun. It's twists and turns. It's 2 or 3 different universes, all slightly connected and interconnected. It really, really harkens back to, okay, if you're old school like I am, you remember a title called World's Finest. World's Finest was the Superman-Batman team-up book that ran from, the 1950s into the 1980s when I was a kid, and forever. Everybody loves World's Finest. Everybody loves any book where these two team up. So World's Finest ran for decades, and that was super awesome. In the early 2000s, we got Superman Batman from Jeff Loeb and Ed McGuinness and a bunch of other great writers and artists, and that was just a gem. That was a treat. It's an all-time great book, really, issue 1 through 25. Then they've done a couple of runs of Batman, Superman since then. Like I say, it's always fun to see these two teaming up and having adventures. But what Gene Yang is doing right now in this current run is what you should do with these characters. It's huge, and like I say, twists and turns and carrying over into other universes and on I could go, but it's just a blast to read. So if you're any kind of superhero fan at all, any kind of DC fan at all, you're probably already reading this, probably already have it on your list. But if you don't, pick up Batman, Superman 16, 17, and this week's number 18. Like I say, it's just a real treat. It's a little bit of comics history, a little bit of breaking new ground. It's 50% everything you know and love about these two characters, and 50% all kinds of brand new stories. So Superman, Batman, and Batman Superman. 3 great books, 3 great tastes that taste great together. And quite honestly, I could turn right back around and talk about those 3 books for the whole rest of the show, but there's lots of other great books to get to. I'm going to stay in a DC realm for a minute, but as I pause for a breath, again, want to know what you're reading, want to know what's at the top of your stack. What are you looking forward to? What did you read last week? What are you picking up next week? What's your favorite comics? What are you guys into out there? It's an interactive program. It's Comic Shop Talk Live. Moving on, I'm going to stay in the DC for just another minute. This is the first issue of Mr. Miracle, The Source of Freedom. Brand new take on one of the most classic and famous characters in the DCU, originally created by Jack the King Kirby, another guy we talked about on last night's show because, of course, he's all-time great. This character started in the Future State Superman stuff, which I really like. It was the backup feature, one of the backup features in Future State Superman, and now he's got his own book. And it's a little bit in the vein of the original Mr. Miracle. He's an escape artist, the world famous escape artist, and that's awesome. But when he's not being an escape artist, he's being a superhero. And of course, this is not scot-free. It's a whole new character. It's a whole new world. And so he's got other missions and other things to do. And for a first issue, it was really awesome. Lays a lot of foundation for the main character, the backup character, his goals and motivations. Great stories, great art. I really liked a lot of the future state stuff. I've said before, I was pleasantly surprised by how a lot of that future state stuff worked out. And I'm glad that they're following up on it with books like this. Because love me some Mr. Miracle, love the original Mr. Miracle. I love the 1980s Justice League take on Mr. Miracle. Love the Tom King Mr. Miracle that we got last year, maybe 2 years ago now. Because didn't 2020 just sort of skip? Anyway, Mr. Miracle. Read everything Mr. Miracle. Pick up the trade paperback for the original Jack Kirby stuff. Pick up the trade paperback for the Tom King stuff. Grab that Future State Superman backup so you can get into the current Mr. Miracle. And last but not least in our little DC realm is Strange Adventures. What a great, great week for DC stuff this week. If you're a DC fan, you got a lot of good books. And Strange Adventures is one of the best. Written by Tom King. You know I talk up Tom King. This is one of Francie's picks this week. Going to get into a few more of Francie's picks here in just a minute. If you're not reading Strange Adventures, if you're not reading Rorschach, you're really missing out. Strange Adventures is at least 4 awesome things off the top of my head. Great story, Tom King. Great art, Mitch Gerard. And of course, our lead character, Adam Strange, is really great. Love me some pulpy sci-fi. And the fourth reason is just it's really kind of cutting edge comics. A little bit of there's at least 3 stories going on at the same time, or maybe it's one story from 3 different perspectives going on at the same time. And like I say, I love me some dark science fiction. DC has never done enough with Adam Strange, one of the cooler characters. And this series sort of totally inverts everything that you know about Adam Strange and about those kind of concepts. So lots of fun. If you can find the first issue, dig that up. This is, number 10, almost done. And this is issue 10 of 12. Don't wait for the trade paperback. Grab those issues and catch up because it's a ton of fun. Like I say, it's a really, really great week for the DC books. Some of my favorite stuff. For the record, the one I didn't mention, the Bat book that is one of my favorite titles, is Batman Catwoman. Speaking of Tom King, and that one comes next week. So this week, catch up on Strange Adventures. Next week, grab that Batman Catwoman, and you'll know why we're always talking up Tom King. Okay, so it was a great week for DC Comics. But quite honestly, it might have been even just a smidge of a better week for Image Comics. Some of the best books out on the market right now are coming from Image Comics. Stories, art, plot, all those things that you want to talk about. Everything that makes comics fun. Image has 20 books like that right now. And this week was a great example. I'm saying every week in my Wednesday video and in this video, if you don't have an Image book on your list, you're missing out on something awesome. And let me give you a few good examples. I was reaching for Spawn. Spawn's out this week, and I don't have one here, but start with Spawn because that's one of the original Image books. But Monstrous. Wow, Monstrous. If you love comics, you probably already have Monstrous on your list. If you're any kind of Image Comics fan, you probably already have Monstrous on your list. If you don't have Monstrous on your list, or if you don't have any idea what I'm talking about, you have a lot of catching up to do. Because Monstrous is about 5 volumes in. This current arc is what will be the 6th trade paperback. It has won a million Eisner Awards, which are the Oscar awards for comics. It's won a bunch of Eisners for art like that and for amazing story. What Image does best is genre fusion. Every Image book is a great mix of 2 or 3 or 5 different genres. Usually it's kind of a horror, sci-fi, superhero thing. Monstrous is a little bit of a fantasy, horror, sci-fi, superhero thing. And it's just absolutely amazing. Great stories, great art. Little difficult, I would say, to jump in at number 34. I would recommend grabbing the first issue reprint or the first trade paperback. If you grab that first trade, you'll read it. It will suck you in, and you will just be dying for more Monstrous. So do yourself a favor and just grab all 5 trades and catch up to the recent issue, because Monstrous is as good as it gets. While I'm on this little Image rant, I like to mention that they have a program called Image Firsts, where they reprint the first issue of all their different books for just $1. So you can go to the website, black-cat-comics.com, take a look at all the different Image First books that we have. Walking Dead, Spawn, Monstrous, Bitterroot, whatever you want to talk about. You can read the first issue for just $1. And if you didn't like it, it was just $1. And if you did love it, well, then for only $1, you got turned on to a brand new favorite title. Monstrous is a great book for that. Next up is Department of Truth. If my man Daniel's watching, he knows what I'm talking about. Department of Truth, this is only issue 9. The first volume trade paperback is out. The second trade is not out yet. Again, these are some of Francie's picks. She's got a lot of great Image books on her list. It's just a great week for Image in general. So Department of Truth is, as I say, a little bit of genre infusion. It's a little bit film noir, or crime noir, I should say, a little bit science fiction, a little bit mystery. Sort of the premise is that if enough people believe it, it becomes true. If enough people believe that the world is flat, then the world starts flattening. And so it's up to the Department of Truth to keep fact and keep science out there so that idiots don't destroy the world. Sound familiar? Department of Truth. Let's show you a little bit of that art. Super, super cool. Everybody loves evil goat heads, right? Great stuff. Like I say, Image just has tons and tons of books out there with concepts and characters and ideas that the other publishers just don't tackle. And so it leads to a never-ending list of great stuff and different kinds of stuff, like go from this to Two Moons, which is really cool, dark horror Western. I told you, genre fusion. They do a little bit of everything. They do crime noir, they do horror, they do sci-fi, they do straight up superhero stuff. Two Moons is, as I say, a really cool Western, a little bit of sci-fi. What got me into it, let's see if I can show you a non-spoiler page, is again, just great art. I picked up Two Moons #1, was just like, wow, I got to read more of that. I love me some Westerns. There aren't enough Westerns in comics. Image had a big hit with East of West. I honestly don't know why they don't do more Westerns in comics, because it's such a great genre for comic books. So Two Moons, it's a little dark, a little gritty, like a lot of Image books, rather mature reader kind of stuff. Great stories, great art. And I'll wrap that up with, we talked about superheroes and sci-fi and horror and fantasy. And this book is a little bit of comedy, though, again, it's definitely on the dark side and definitely a mature reader book. But HaHa has been great. We love this book around here. Each issue is self-contained. It's its own individual story, a little like Silver Coin and a few other books that Image has. They're all a little bit clown themed because everybody loves creepy clowns. And it is, again, a little bit comedy, a little bit tragedy, a little bit, I don't even know what you'd say. Reality comics, I guess. They used to call them romance comics, but now I guess they're real life comics. So HaHa is a little bit real life, a little bit horror, a little bit creepy clowns, and a little bit of dark comedy. And so, as I said, just a really great, let's go through those covers one more time. Great week for the Image guys with your fantasy book, your crime and mystery book, your Western book, and your comedy book, all with a cool little, oops, sorry guys, let's do that over here. Your comedy book, your Western book, your crime book, and your fantasy book, all with a little twinge of horror, all with a little twinge of action adventure. As I say, everybody should have an Image book on their list because Image just does a ton of great stuff. So that's a bit of me rambling, going 90 miles an hour on some of the best books of the week. Again, interactive program. Want to hear from you guys. Want to know what you're reading, what you're looking forward to reading, what's at the top of your stack this week. As I get through just my last few on the Marvel side, got talk up some Heroes Reborn. This is Heroes Reborn number 4 already. It's been a weekly book. This is the new big Marvel event thing. The premise is that it's a world without the Avengers. What if the Avengers had never existed? But it's not exactly a what if. It's going on in our reality. And so you, the reader, are sort of left wondering, hey, how did this happen? Where are all the heroes that I know? What's happened to everybody? So you got to read it and find out. And again, it's already 4th issue. So if you've been letting them get by you, grab those other ones and catch up. I'm a really big fan of the Marvel events. I know people have event fatigue, as they call it. There's some great art to show you. Maybe a little spoilerific. Again, this is issue 4, so we're kind of a little deep in the book, but come on, that's just really super cool. And like I say, I like the big event books. Marvel does a great job with them because there's 2 sides to this, really. If you are following your core Marvel titles, you're reading Amazing Spider-Man, you're reading Daredevil, you're reading Avengers, whatever it is you're reading, you don't have to increase your budget and pick up all these other books. You don't have to read all this other stuff. You just read your core titles, keep on enjoying your Merry Marvels, and you won't miss a beat. Conversely, if you only follow the event books, they're also self-contained. You can follow those other side event books, but you don't really have to then read all the Marvel core titles. You can just follow, your Heroes Reborn and the Heroes Reborn tie-in stuff, and it's completely self-contained. I've said for many, many years that a person can do either or and be a totally satisfied Marvel fan. You can read your core titles and totally ignore the events. You can read just the events and totally ignore the core titles. Or, of course, if you're someone like me, you do a little mix of both. But this one's been a lot of fun. I've been talking them up all along because of Jason Aaron. They're written by Jason Aaron, but each issue has had a different artist, and they've been spotlighting some of the very best artists that Marvel's got working right now. And so visually, each issue has been a treat. And story-wise, they've been a whole lot of fun. There's a lot unfolding in each and every issue. And along that topic, this week had 3 side titles. Heroes Reborn, Magneto, Heroes Reborn, Young Squadron, and now Siege Society, which is another thing I say about all these event things. You don't have to read all these side books to get the main story. If you just want to read the main book, off you go. God bless America. But if you really dig the main book like I do, and then you see a book with Baron Zemo on it that ties into that, you're like, I like Baron Zemo. I'm going to check that out. A lot of people bought the Young Squadron one this week. All the X people, of course, picked up the Magneto one. I was, of course, drawn to the one with Zemo on it because I'm a big Captain America fan. Been a fan of his villains like Zemo all my life. Been a big fan of Thunderbolts forever. I guess that's a little bit of what this is. This is sort of the Heroes Reborn version of the Thunderbolts. And if you don't know what the Thunderbolts are, I ain't going to be the one that tells you about it. You'll just have to Google that on your own. But fun stuff. So like I say, if you're already maxed out on your title count, then and on your finances and whatnot, then just let it keep on rolling. But if you got a couple extra bucks, pick up some Heroes Reborn, grab one of those side books that looks like fun because more is more, right? I'm having a good time with them. Great stories, great art. And last but not least out of me is the War of the Bounty Hunter stuff. Gotta talk up all the awesomeness that's going on in Star Wars comics right now. This week was Darth Vader and Dr. Aphra. Do I have a Dr. Aphra to show you? Oh, it's down there somewhere. I'm showing Vader because you should be reading Darth Vader anyway. Most of you are probably reading Darth Vader anyway. There's at least 4 ongoing Star Wars books. There's Star Wars, the main book. There's Darth Vader. One of the greatest villains in all of fiction. There's Dr. Aphra, the aforementioned, who's a brand new character from the new Marvel comics that I'm sure we'll be seeing in the games and in the Star Wars shows and all those good things. And then there's Bounty Hunters, Star Wars Bounty Hunters, which, of course, is a big theme for what's going on right now. War of the Bounty Hunters is a sort of crossover event that's going on through all the books. You want to pick up that War of the Bounty Hunters Alpha because it stars Boba Fett and has some of the best art that you're going to see in a modern comic, and that was awesome. Then grab the latest issue of Star Wars of Bounty Hunters. Grab this week's Darth Vader and Dr. Aphra. They're all prelude issues. They're not sequential. You don't have to read them in any kind of order. Just follow the titles that you're following. But if you're any kind of Star Wars fan, you want to be doing this. I've been talking up the great job Marvel's been doing with all of this from the get-go, and now everything in the books is happening in between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, which is super awesome. War of the Bounty Hunters starts with Boba Fett leaving Cloud City with Han Solo in the trunk, and now every bounty hunter in the galaxy wants to steal Han Solo and return him to Jabba himself. Thus, War of the Bounty Hunters. Again, the Alpha was the first part of the prelude. The latest issue of all the Star Wars books say prelude on them really big. And then next week, we get War of the Bounty Hunters #1, the first of the core mini, and then everything else will continue to cross over through those. So, like I say, if you're any kind of Star Wars fan, if you're a longtime fan like me, great. If you're a new Mandalorian fan, that's great too. Whatever kind of Star Wars fan you are, whatever kind of science fiction or comics fan you are, you want to be checking out something from the Star Wars books. And I would start with Darth Vader because he's super awesome. Lots and lots of great books. I know that was sort of a speed round because I don't have my partner here to make me take breaths in between my sentences. But just like to show you a few of the new books, give you a few reasons to check out something new, something different, or explain a little bit of why I like something and why I think you might like it too. Because that's what it's all about here on Comic Shop Talk Live. We get together, we hang out, we talk about the new comics. I'll start to wrap it up, but like I say, it's interactive. Feel free to throw your questions, comments, concerns, queries. Throw us your favorite titles, what you're looking forward to reading, and I will address those questions. Otherwise, let me close out by saying you can find me here on Facebook and on YouTube every Wednesday at 9 a.m. showing you the new comics that are out that week. Then they go live at black-cat-comics.com. You pick up your comics. You order your comics through the site, pick them up curbside, pick them up in store, get them shipped out to you. You read them through the week, and then you tune in Saturday, 2 p.m., and we talk about them here on Comic Shop Talk Live, because that's all the good fun. And then, again, want to mention the last Friday of every month, we do Causey's Classics, where we travel back in time, where it's not about this week's books, but about the cool classics from the eras gone by. Go to Facebook and YouTube and check out last night's show and be on the lookout for next week or next month, because this is always a ton of fun, because new comics, old comics, everything in between, it's all about the four-color fun. So that's all I got for you for this week. Thanks for tuning in. Again, tune in on Wednesday as we get right back to it with next week's books. This was Comic Shop Talk Live. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.